Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of my new series, Women of the Mats, a series where I sit down with the women of BJJ and combat sports so we can learn and be inspired. I thought there was no better woman to start with than my own very coach, Aj Clingerman. Aj Clingerman is my coach, but she's also my family. For anyone who doesn't know who you are, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Aj Clingerman, obsessed with jiu-jitsu. No, I run Role Model Grappling Academy along with my wife. We run the Role Model Women's Only camps as well as co-ed retreats and intensives. We have gear. I'm a business coach, and I have a podcast, Beauty and the Gi.
Period. So, you have your black belt and are a successful gym and business owner, but I want to know where it all started. What got you into jiu-jitsu and when did you start training?
So, I always wanted to run a dance school when I was growing up. So doing a jiu-jitsu school wasn't that much different, and I really kind of started a jiu-jitsu gym and started training about the same time. An ex got me into it. He did jiu-jitsu, and he wasn't working, and so I just stopped at a taekwondo school and was like, would you like to put in a jiu-jitsu program? And they were like, yeah, actually we would. And so that's kind of how our gym was born, and I trained a little back then, but not a lot.
This woman's a pioneer. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that was in 2000.
So, since you've been in this sport for so long, I'm curious what it looked like for women back then when you started training.
Yeah, I can actually remember, I think the only two women we ever had at the first gym. Neither one lasted. And I mean, even for the first decade, we would only have maybe one or two other women on the mat ever. So
that's crazy to me. I know it's still a struggle sometimes, but there's still a lot more compared to then, I feel.
Absolutely. It's growing tremendously. But I mean, there are still gyms that have very few women. You know, I talk to a lot of women that only have maybe one other woman, or they're the only one. Usually there's a reason. But, we're kind of spoiled because half of our gym is women.
That's true. I'm a happy grappler. What are struggles and challenges that you face being a woman in BJJ? Start with in terms of being a student, and then what it looked like when you started being a coach and a gym owner.
Yeah. Like I said, I was kind of always a gym owner, but I didn't really get super active in the gym until 2008. Even more so around 2010. And that challenged a lot of the men. A lot of the men did not like it. And honestly, I was kind of bullied by some of them for quite some time until they finally left the gym. So there were definitely some challenges with, I don't know, guys not liking me being in charge in any way. I hate to say that, we've got such amazing men now, but that was definitely a challenge for the first, honestly, 20 years of owning a gym. At different times, and there'd be good men throughout that, but that was definitely something I struggled with. When I got my black belt, even though I'd been training for 21, 22 years at that point, that just made a lot of guys mad.
That's a whole me. You're super qualified. I don't know what's up with that.
I know. And it was really funny to me because, I went white through brown under a certain instructor, my old instructor, and then got my black belt from someone else because I divorced my instructor. And it was kind of saying I'm not good enough to be a black belt feels like you're also saying I wasn't good enough to be all those other things, I put in my time. I competed a lot. A big challenge with competition is, and still is, finding competitors or having someone to compete against.
Yeah, usually I go against the same 5 girls.
Yeah.
Whether regionally too, I'll go to the other states around, and it's usually the same girls.
Yep. Yeah. It's still a decently small sport. Here's the thing: jiu-jitsu is a small sport. The women in jiu-jitsu are even smaller, and the competitive women is even smaller. So it is a challenge, but I think it's getting better and better. I mean, when I first started competing, it was like federation, you were blue and purple or you were black and brown. There were no white belts competed, and it was just one of those two.
At what point did they start implementing the white belts?
Ooh, I don't really know for the white belts. I feel like, I'm not sure. I mean, that was in 2009 was the first federation tournament I went to. And it was like that. So, by 2013, I know that they had white belts, but I don't know what time that came in. So.
Going back to bringing up like men not really supporting and getting their egos hurt, is there any point where you started realizing more men were just like, that's loser behavior?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think honestly, like once I started doing some therapy and like recognizing that it wasn't me, it was, their own issues, it got easier for me to just like be myself, and like I want to lead, I want to grow community, and if they don't want to be a part of that community, then that's okay.
Right. So a quote I live by is that if you want to see change, you have to be the change. And a lot of women are still stuck in circumstances like harmful gym culture and no spaces for them in general, leading them to quit or have bad experiences. What are some green and red flags that are in gyms, and what are steps that they can do to change to create a better environment that welcomes and creates a safe space for women?
Yeah, that's a lot, but some red flags sometimes are that you're the only woman in the gym. Sometimes it's not a red flag. Sometimes they just haven't been able to cultivate that. Like it's hard to be the first. It's hard to be the first three, like once you kind of get a few women, it's easier. So on the other side of that, something that can help is if you have a good gym environment, you know that like your guys are good guys, they're trustworthy, they're not trying to, date all the 20-year-olds. If it's a good environment, then you work to change that, right? Like you try to bring in women, you try to start a women's only class, do whatever you can. You don't have to be a black belt to do a women's class. I started at blue, and sometimes I would like work on the move before class and then go teach it, or I would just teach the things I felt comfortable with. And I think that women just need to know that you care, and that you're willing to put the time in. Some other red flags would be, are a lot of the black belt men coaches dating the 20-something-year-old white belts? That's usually a pretty big red flag. Is there even a locker room? Like, is there a place for women to change?
Right.
The pictures on the walls, are there, is everybody represented on the walls? All those kinds of things. And those are little things. The website, the social media, check out the social media. Like, what's the vibe of the gym? How do they talk on the mat as far as, are there a lot of like women jokes, or like stop being a girl, or, like that kind of stuff. Like all those microaggressions add up and are red flags.
Right.
And that might not be the kind of place that you want to help build. So you can't really be the change there unless you can start changing the environment. Like if you can go to your coach and say, I don't know if you recognize this, but these are the things that are happening, and this is why we can't keep women in the gym, and they're susceptible, like they understand that. Great. Like if you can change the culture, do. If not, you might just have to go find another gym.
Right. It's not fun talking to a wall, and you don't want to gaslight yourself into what's going on.
Yeah.
You kind of answered this question, but what are things that we as women can do to sustain the women that are already on the mats? What does leadership look like?
Yeah, I think it's, grabbing them to help them with warm-ups, or to drill with them, like help the new people learn their name, be excited to see them. And when you don't see them, check in, like when you meet a new student, if you could connect with them in some way, like follow them on Instagram or however, you want to connect. But then if you don't see them for like a week, message them and just be like, hey, miss you in class. Make sure everything's okay. I think that's a really good way to be a leader, because people really need to know that you care. don't break your toys.
Right.
That's one too. Like, do not murder the brand new person. Like, kind of try to work with them at their level, and that can be hard, especially if you are also a white belt or maybe a brand new blue belt. Like, being able to work at somebody else's level can be hard, but I do think it helps give them some confidence and makes them want to keep coming back. If you continuously hurt somebody, obviously they don't want to train anymore. And then, like maybe some social activities outside of class, bond with each other, whether that's just like grabbing lunch after class or, going out on the weekends, whatever that is. I think that could be important.
And that also leads me to my next question.
I'm good at this. No.
She's really good at it. But how important is community in BJJ? How do you create a healthy community and environment?
Yeah. On the podcast, I introduced myself as obsessed with jiu-jitsu, but the reality is that I'm obsessed with the community. I think just, showing people that you care. Everything I do is to build community and to bring people together. I want people to feel like they belong. And, sometimes like we have a couple students that don't do jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Like they don't train, they don't do kickboxing, they don't do judo. They're just like, can I just come and like sit and watch classes? Because like I can't physically do it, but I want to be a part of the environment. People want to be a part of the community. And that's what I want. I don't know if I answered the question.
No, you did.
Okay, good.
What are some struggles that you come across while trying to build a community?
Not everyone wants to be a part of the community. Some people, at times want to actively sabotage that. And that's something, like with owning a gym for over 25 years, we've run into it a few times. Like it just happens. And the fallout is always hard. Or when, if you have to tell a student to leave because they're not respecting the community, they're not benefiting the community as a whole. And that can be hard. People do grow attached to each other, but sometimes you have to say, like you're not safe for the community in one way or another. And then there's fallout for that. So that's definitely a hard thing that we've had to deal with, but I think the community grows stronger afterwards. When they realize that you're willing to stand up for them, like what you say is what you mean. And if people don't respect each other, they can't stick around.
I think that in jiu-jitsu, we learn a lot about integrity and resilience. Mm-hmm. And I think that those are two things that help like handle those situations.
Yeah. And like trust is built very quickly in jiu-jitsu. Like I'm allowing someone to choke me or armbar me or whatever, and I have to trust that when I tap, you'll let go. And because of that, like closeness and trust is built so quickly that if somebody betrays that trust, that has to be dealt with.
Yeah, I agree. In my opinion, sportsmanship is very, very important, especially in women's sports. At our gym, we have a saying that a rising tide raises all ships. What is the importance of supporting your fellow athletes? How does it grow the sport standing together?
Yeah. I wear a ring with a wave on it all the time to remind myself that I'm a part of that rising tide, right? And that I never want to try to capsize someone else's ship, okay? I'm not competition with anybody. We're going to help each other. And I mean, obviously, we're going to compete against each other in a tournament, but us competing against each other in a tournament is part of that rising tide, right? We give somebody the space to compete, to have an opponent. I think it's just, like cheering my friends on, or, see if somebody gets promoted, you see it on your Facebook, like actually congratulating them and just cheering them on. I think that's a big part of the rising tide, not feeling like anyone else's success makes me less than in any way.
I think that's very profound, and I've learned a lot of that from her, so it's really helped me out, especially going back to that I do compete against the same like 5 or 6 girls, but if I feel like if I went into it with a really petty or bad sportsmanship mindset, I wouldn't be as successful as I am. I mean, we're the only 5 people doing it, right? So if we aren't working together, then we're not making a difference, I feel.
Yeah, you need each other. You need each other to compete.
Yeah.
And competition helps you improve. So,
yeah, I think showing up for each other looks like a lot of ways. So that's one of them. What is your favorite part about being a coach, and what is your favorite part about being a grappler?
okay. Favorite part about being a coach? I think that I mean, definitely community, right? Like we've talked a lot about that, but also those aha moments that people have throughout their whole jiu-jitsu journey. You know, you can be a purple belt and go, I have never noticed that detail. Like I've been missing that part this whole time. Like my whatever escape never worked because I was missing this little bit. So I love those aha moments. As a grappler myself, just I think the stress relief of it, you know, it's just so fun. Like I love rolling. I love just, you know, community of it and like getting to laugh and sing and, you know, work hard, and I love the activity of it.
Yeah, it can be intimidating when you look at the sport from like a surface level.
Yeah.
But I promise you, it's mostly concerts and like aggressive hugging here. So
That's true.
You know. Is there something that you learned as a white belt that you carry with yourself now as a black belt?
Ooh, that's such a great question. I can't think of anything that comes to mind specifically. Now, granted, it's been a very long time since I've been a white belt. But as a white belt, pretty much my whole white belt journey, which was like 13 years, the only time I really got on the mat consistently was because another woman was on the mat.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that like from the beginning of my journey, it was ingrained in me to like be there for someone else, you know, to be a partner, to like, I'll get better when she gets better. And it's that rising tide, right? So I think that's the only thing that really comes to mind is just like, I think my obsession with the community started then, where I was just like, well, there's a woman, I better go get dressed and stop working in the office and actually do jiu-jitsu.
That's really sweet. You always carry that with you, girl. Man. So the next question is kind of the same in a different font, but what would you tell your white belt self?
Two things. And I take these because these were two of my biggest regrets in jiu-jitsu. My second biggest regret in jiu-jitsu is not competing more as a white belt. Like if you don't want to compete, that's fine. You don't have to. But if you think you want to, compete as much as you can at white belt, because like, who cares?
Yeah.
So I only did a couple of competitions at white belt, and I really wish I would have done more. And then my second one is like recover from injuries. Like if you get hurt, don't just push forward. Don't rub some dirt on it. Like actually recover. As somebody who's now 46 and has been grappling for 25 years, you know, I've got some aches and pains that I would have anyway as a 46-year-old, probably more had I not done jiu-jitsu. But I do wish I would have spent more time rehabbing things.
That's for us crazy 20-year-old blue belts who compete all the time and don't take care of our joints.
That's correct.
Y'all need to hear that too, Chris. How do you tackle owning a business and keeping up with your own training goals? Is there balance or is it a struggle?
It's a struggle for sure. And I think not just the business owning part, but the coaching part. You know, like owning the business, those tasks are happening throughout the day. But when I'm coaching, you know, I'm teaching, so I'm not drilling because I'm walking around and helping everyone else. Like I think the like 4 times I showed it during drilling or like when I'm teaching, those were my drills. Even when I'm rolling, even if I'm rolling with Risser, who's also a black belt, I'm still watching everyone around me. I'm, you know, like we'll be rolling, but I'm like, oh, that was a good sweep, or get out from underneath there. Where are your frames? Use your hands. Like I'm still coaching the whole time. And if I'm rolling with the students, I am constantly evaluating, so it's really hard to be a grappler during that time. My biggest suggestion then is like, go somewhere else sometimes, right? Like, or host open mats where people can come in, go to open mats, go to camps. Like, I try to go to as many camps as I can, as many seminars as I can, so that I can continue my education to then be a better coach, but also so I can be a better grappler.
That's a good answer. Now, let's get into the tea. What makes role model grappling so special?
I think it's because we're community first, right? Like, I don't care if, you compete. I don't care if you are just a hobbyist, if you just want to sit and watch. I don't care what your journey looks like. I always say it's my job to love you where you are and push you to improve. We do a lot for the community. We do free gear, we do gear swap stuff, and we have a food pantry, and we, respect each other's pronouns. And so we really just are community first. We do a lot of things like hanging out too. I think that's what makes us so special, is we're really a community that does jiu-jitsu instead of a jiu-jitsu gym that like is community only because of these four walls.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So my best friend, we've been friends since middle school, and I've always wanted, it took me so long to get her to train, but it started off with her just sitting there in the corner and watching, and she would express about how nice our community is. I don't think she would have started jiu-jitsu if it wasn't for how welcoming we were, honestly. But now she just did her first roll, and she's like actually getting into it. She actually knows when to break fall. And like I said, like I don't think it would have happened without a great community. That's gonna be so loud. Can you tell us about the annual women's grappling camp?
Yes. So we run women's only or role model women's only grappling camp. The next one is July 10th through the 12th in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's the world's largest women's only grappling camp. We'll have 250 women there. We also do a next gen section. So I think next gen is 8 to 13 years old. They have their own room, their own coaches. Like, they get signed in and out. So they're fully safe. They stay in this whole room their whole time. So if the mom also trains, she can be in the room with us. We do everything from sit-down workshops on, injury recovery or nutrition or strength training or competition mindset, different subjects every year. I do a couple business workshops, and then we do a ton of jiu-jitsu. We have a dance party, we do yoga. It's just an amazing event.
I love it. It's one of my favorite things about each year. I'll put a link in the bio for that website.
Also, I'll give a discount code. So I'll make the code SALMA50, and you can get $50 off camp if you use that code.
Y'all better use that. That's a steal. So, personally, what are some goals that you have going into the next year, or the new year?
Yeah, going into the new year, I want to compete at Master Worlds. That's my big competition for the year. Also, I want to compete at the Indy Open, which I haven't done an Indy Open yet, partially because, it's hard to coach and compete, but also, it's hard to compete sometimes in your own backyard. But I am going to do the Indy Open this year, and then Master Worlds. I've got some big goals for camp and some other intensives that I'm looking at. So, yeah.
That's exciting. What is a message that you can give to anyone that wants to try jiu-jitsu but hasn't yet?
Yeah, just try it. I love the thought of when was the best time to start jiu-jitsu? 10 years ago or as a child or whatever. And it's what's the second best time? Today. Just get started. I had somebody say, if I started now, I'd be 50 before I'm a black belt. And I was like, well, you're going to be 50 either way. So wouldn't you like to be a black belt when you're 50?
That'd be so cool. Come
Right,
on.
exactly.
Don't see the problem. I have a few fun questions before we end the episode. But what's your favorite gi?
Fuji, probably the crane one.
Yeah. And your favorite rash guard?
Well, role model. My favorite role model rash guard, though, is the Phoenix one or the octopus.
Cute. I don't have those. What's your favorite submission?
Wild West.
Those are crazy. Gi or no gi?
Probably gi, but I go back and forth.
Same. What is your favorite snack after training?
Ooh, well, typically, I'm gonna say tacos. Yeah, especially like Sunday training, we'd like train in the morning and then go get tacos. That's my favorite.
I love tacos.
Who doesn't?
Who's your favorite female grappler, and you can't say Rizzer or me?
All right. I mean, probably my coach would kill me if I didn't say her, so I'll say Rachel Casillas.
Love you.
After Rachel, I mean, of course, Fionn, you know, like she's fantastic. Adele Fornerino, amazing. I'll go with those. I named a few.
No, those are good. Those are good. Now, lastly, where can we find more of you?
Yeah, I'm Aj Clingerman everywhere you go. That's with a C. And TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Yeah.
I'll link her in the bio too. So, thank you for answering all my questions.
Thanks for having me.
And all that fun stuff. I would really appreciate if you guys would like, subscribe, and comment. I'm going to be putting up a lot of more cool content that I'm sure will be really helpful and enjoyable to watch. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!
Do you want to do a quick like test video for our sound and then watch it back, or do you think it's good?
We can test what just happened.
You know what I should do is turn off the heat.
Stop.
Me to look?
No,
Okay.
that's okay.